Hi, sixth grade social studies students. I'm going to do a quick little review for your next CCA, the second one, which is going to be the end of the first quarter. So it's very important that you listen carefully to this video because I'm going to review some of the material that you will see on the test. The first thing I want you to know is this test is about modifying and adapting to the environment. So how do we change the environment, and then what do we do to adapt to how the environment is, okay? So how do we change it, and then what do we do to adapt to the environment? So the first thing is let's talk about adapting to the environment. Things that we do is if it's cold outside, we put on a coat. If it's hot outside, we put on sunblock. If we live along the coast, we build our houses up on stilts, right? So when the storms surge and everything comes through, our houses don't flood, okay? That's if you lived out in Galveston or you lived along Florida, okay? You build your houses up. If you live in Tornado Alley and where the tornadoes come through, which is Kansas, the middle of the country, you have reinforced ceilings and roofs, and they have different standards there because the wind is so strong. It could just literally take the roof right off of your house. And once the roof goes, the rest of the house kind of goes. Also, they have storm cellars there where people can go and hide underneath in basements because that's the tornado. So here we put our houses up. There they build basements so they can protect themselves when the heavy or the strong winds come through. Okay. Some other things like modifying the environment. So mining, we mine for good reasons. We need the materials underneath there and the minerals. The problem is it destroys the environment. It depletes groundwater. It pollutes groundwater underneath because of all the byproducts that come off of mining. We're taking natural minerals out of the earth. A lot of times they tear down the forest to get underneath. So that's deforestation. We read about mountaintop removal, where they take off the whole top of the mountain, which changes the whole geography and landform, not just what it looks like, but how water runs down the mountain and different rivers that the water flows into. It literally redoes what nature was intended to do when they take off the top of a mountain. So mining can have really negative effects, but we do need some of these minerals, to live off of, to sell, to use. One of those specifically is oil, right? We drill for oil, especially out in the Gulf of Mexico. And drilling for oil, obviously we need it, right? We take oil and we turn it into everything, including plastics, lipstick, almost everything in your house to fuel your cars, airplanes, machines, everything takes oil. And as we are developing these new ways to create energy, we still are using oil. What happened right now? What would happen, hypothetical, if we ran out of oil right now? The oil was gone. Well, the skies would go black. We wouldn't have planes. We wouldn't have lights. We wouldn't have cars. It would literally be everything would just stop. That's what happens when we're so dependent on one product. And hopefully over the years, and hopefully as your generation gets older, we're developing alternative sources of energy so we don't depend so heavily on oil. But right now we depend a lot on oil, okay, which is a non-renewable resource, right? So let's talk a little bit about irrigation. So irrigation is the movement of water. It's going from one place to another place. And we can do that with underground pipes, with ways that we have built in kind of these drainage or valleys to move the water. Sprinkler systems. Sprinkler systems is a form of irrigation. That's how we get water from our pipes into our yard. Irrigation is traditionally used to water the grass, water livestock, or provide water for livestock, and water the earth for agriculture, right? And to grow crops. So we need irrigation because water just isn't there whenever we need it. We have to move it around a lot of times and get it to where we need it to be. It's very important for crops and livestock for irrigation. Okay, so let's look at the physical process. What does physical process mean? Well, physical means that something's moving. Okay, physical means things are moving, things are happening. A process means, what is it, right? What is it? So an earthquake is a physical process. A tornado is a physical process. So when you think of the word physical process, if you see it on your test, think of something that is moving. Next, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about infrastructure. Okay, so infrastructure is the roads, the freeways, the hospitals, the schools, the way everything that's, I mean, I think of it as like anything that's concrete or movement or is necessary for a city to expand and grow is considered, something just popped up. I'll do that. It's considered infrastructure. You have to have infrastructure to have a strong urban center. Okay, you have to have those things. You have to have paths for people to walk on. You have to have town centers. There's always going to be a town center when there's strong infrastructure. Okay, hospital for people to go to when they get sick. Without those things, you don't have a strong urban center. It could be a village. It could be a town far away that's smaller, that doesn't have a lot of population, and that's okay. But strong urban centers have strong infrastructure. Let's see. Okay, so remember in the Sahara Desert, it's extremely hot, right? So think about how you would adapt to living in the Sahara Desert. What would you need? Okay, water, some sort of source of water. Your clothing would probably change if you lived in the Sahara Desert. What you do for a living is probably going to change. Shelter, all of those types of things would change if you were living in the Sahara Desert. If we have, and we've had, so Hurricane Harvey and our most recent storm, creates a lot of flooding, right? We have lots of flooding. People are out of work. This last storm, it didn't necessarily hit the Woodlands, Spring, Klein area as hard as it hit South Houston or center of Houston. But when we have this flooding, businesses shut down. People lose their cars. Extra people have to go to work to do things. When those types of things happen, when you have excessive flooding, people struggle. Okay, economically, people struggle because now they have more expenses or they've lost things. And you think about if it floods really bad in cropland, okay, or where there's crop or where people are growing lots of plants and vegetables, you get too much water, it destroys the crops. They become moldy and they get diseases. And there's this really like important balance of like enough sun and enough water and not too much water and not too much heat, right? So when any of those things happen where it's extreme, what ends up happening is we have economic struggles, and economic struggles means money, right? So people are struggling financially. Okay, so remember that economic struggles is a result of too much water or too much sun, okay, specifically to agriculture or urban cities or anywhere that's needed. Let's see, how would families in northern Russia survive if they didn't have fruits and vegetables? Okay, how would they survive? Well, to be honest, they don't eat a lot of citrus fruits, right? Because it's very cold up in Russia. They would eat vegetables that are hardy to that climate. So potatoes, some cabbages, things like that. Those are things that can be grown in colder environments. You're not going to have bananas and avocados and probably not even strawberries necessarily where it's really cold. You're going to have vegetables and you're going to have fruits that can be grown in climates that are colder. So you have to pay very close attention to when, if it's a cold climate, what you think can be grown there. And if it's a hot climate, what can be grown there as well. Sorry, I'm just looking over this one more time. I think that's about it. Think about modifying and adapting. Everything on your test is either a modification question or an adaptation question, okay? So when you read it, first identify, am I modifying the environment or am I adapting to the environment? Okay, those are your two things that you're going to be looking at. Please study for the test. You also have a review quiz and some other things available to you. So do those things. This is a 20-question test, so you're going to have to pace yourself accordingly. 20 questions, okay? It's the last major grade for this grading cycle. Okay, good luck. Thank you for watching.